Hello and welcome to What's New in the World of Intelligent Storage Platform. Today's webinar is sponsored by HPE and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Keith Ward. I'm from Actual Tech Media, as you might have guessed, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. First, though, there's some things you need to know to get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. Now, that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, and slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, let us know in the Q&A, and one of our nice, friendly, good-looking people will provide further technical assistance. Second, in the handouts section of your webinar control panel, you'll find a number of important handouts. I'd especially like to call your attention today to the two handouts from HPE, including one on HPE GreenLake for block storage. I think we're going to discuss that in the show today. There's also a link to the Gorilla Guide Book Club, where you can get access to Actual Tech Media's vast library of books on technology topics. And also check out the links to the ATM Events Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events. Okay, and at the end of this webinar event, we'll be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one registrant. Note that you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. And finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask questions of our expert presenters. To help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize, another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. After the event is over, we'll look at all the questions that came in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. And I'll also be jumping in for the Q&A at several points during the event, so get those questions ready. And with that, let's get to today's fantastic content. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today, Ken Huffman, Tyler Clark, and Phil Manez. Ken starts things off, and he's ready to go. Ken, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Thanks for the introduction and for having us here. Again, my name is Ken Huffman. I am a solution business manager here at HPE for data protection products. I've got Zerto, GreenLake for disaster recovery, which is going to be a product that we're going to launch here shortly. And it's really Zerto under the covers. Importantly, backup and recovery, that's the product we're going to talk about today. I'm taking a little bit of a different tack today. Instead of starting with slides, I'm going to do something a little dangerous and run you through a live demo. So what you're looking at right now is the GreenLake Cloud Platform, and this is where backup and recovery service, as well as our other services, reside. Tyler's going to cover GreenLake for block, and Phil's going to cover GreenLake for file. But I wanted to give you a quick tour because it's a pretty compelling interface, very easy to navigate, and it's the home for everything that we have, right? So this is a test environment, but it is a live environment. And you're looking right now at the GreenLake Cloud Platform. You get here by going to greenlake.hpe.com, and anybody in the world can create a GreenLake account. If you don't have any services or some of our hardware, there's not much to do in the platform, but you can go take a look. And you can see in the platform is Aruba Central for networking, data services, cloud console for storage, and that's where we're going to focus today. Compute ops management for server management, and then lastly, GreenLake Central for the greater GreenLake. So everything GreenLake is on this single platform, very compelling to me. And so for the platform, let me just show you a few things. Up here, we're in the dashboard right now. Applications is where you can access your various services that you have licensed. Devices, you can see the devices as well as onboard new devices. And what I want to show you is manage, because security is a fundamental part of the GreenLake Cloud Platform. So I clicked on manage, and I'm going to click on identity and access. And the one I'm going to click on is roles and permissions. And this shows you the role-based access that the GreenLake Cloud Platform has for security. So you can create, hundreds of users if needed, and you can have a backup administrator. You can have a block storage, provisioner, if you want to call it that. Various roles with various levels of access. So very flexible, and again, a single platform to manage your worldwide infrastructure from anywhere in the world. Whether it's a tablet, a laptop, a PC, you can manage your GreenLake infrastructure from that single place. So we'll go back to the GreenLake Cloud Platform. And we'll click on Data Services Cloud Console. And this is where we'll spend the majority of the time for this demo. So you can see there's backup and recovery, there's block. So we don't have the tile for file yet. This, again, a test environment, so we don't have that in this environment, but we of course do have it available because the product is launched. And so I'll click on backup and recovery, and what I want to show you first is the dashboard. So every time you click on a service, it brings you to a dashboard, and you can see it's a very, in my, my personal opinion, it's very easy to digest and understand. You can scroll down and see all the things that it's telling you about the service. And then I'm going to quickly go to block just to show you that. And again, every service you go to, it brings you to the dashboard, same look and feel, very easy to digest. And block is a very different service, so it offers different information, but that's just what I wanted to show you, is how easy it is to jump around. And by the way, you can see how I'm navigating with that little drop-down menu. You can choose this little button over here, and it gives you a drop-down with a greater look at the various services. So very easy ways to navigate. But here's the backup and recovery service. And it's really based on two things. It's data protection, of course, but it's based on protection groups and protection policies. Protection policies you can create as many as you want. You're probably going to create 7 or 8, depends upon your environment, but it's for the backup frequencies, dailies, weeklies, monthlies, backup retention, how long are you going to keep the backup? Is the backup going to be immutable, as well as the snapshot functionality too? So you can see there's a little hamburger menu right here, and this is again the same for all the services. The block service will have that little hamburger menu, and it's what you can do within the service. So you click on protection policies, like I just mentioned, and the first thing it gives you is kind of its own little dashboard. And you can see this middle column here. It gives you what those protection policies are configured to. Very, very brief information on that policy. So you can scroll down and see all the protection policies we have here, how they're configured. You can click this little plus button, and I can create a protection policy very easily via this little wizard. And I'm just going to leave the default names in the interest of time, but you can see what do you want to protect. And I'm going to talk to this. You can protect your local VMware infrastructure or AWS resources. So let's just protect local VMware. And now it asks you, what do you want to do? So do you want to do a snapshot? You can click Add Schedule. Again, I'm going to use the defaults, but this is now adding an array snapshot, and the default is hourly, every 4 hours, and it's retain 1 day, and I can choose a mutability if I want. Now let's go down to the replicated snapshot and click on Add Schedule, and again, it pulls up the default, and again, I'm just going to leave the defaults there, but you can see that, and just as I click Add Schedule, it pulls up a default, a pretty common default for that particular type of protection. And again, lastly, you've got that immutability setting, and for the cloud protection store, so this is being able to back up to the cloud. You can do that as well. And so you click Next, and it tells you, okay, this is what you selected. Is this what you want? And so you can see everything you've selected, and then you click Submit. Now, I could click Submit. It's a test environment, but I won't do that. It happens very quickly. I'm just going to cancel that. So that's a protection policy. Protection groups are pretty simple too. You're going to group VMs together that need to have the same type of protection, and you group those VMs together, apply a protection policy, and you're done. So that's really the two main concepts within backup and recovery. Restore is very simple as well. There's a simple restore menu. You can restore from your snapshots, from your replicated snapshots, from your local backups or your cloud backups. And I'll talk to that via my slides. So that is the GreenLake Cloud Platform and Data Services Cloud Console, and very easy to navigate, poke around. You can see that. And now I'm going to switch to my slides. Okay, so backup and recovery. Let's get into a little bit of detail. You've seen how it works in the interface. We'll talk a little bit about the product. So first off, this is a little kind of marketing slide on our design for backup and recovery. It needed to be quick to deploy. You won't see this in an architectural slide, but it's 2 VMs that you're going to deploy in your VMware environment. We only protect VMware environments right now. And so it's 2 VMs, very easy to deploy. Automated protection, I just talked about protection policies and protection groups. That is the structure of how we've done backup and recovery. So very simple to do. And they are global protection policies, so you can protect VMware infrastructure across the city, across the state, across the world via those global protection policies. Manage from anywhere. I talked about whether it's a tablet, a PC, a laptop, you can manage all of your worldwide infrastructure from anywhere as well. And then lastly, no need to plan for upgrades. This is all delivered via microservices on the back end. So we update the product and we release new features in the background for you, no downtime. And you'll suddenly see a new feature pop up, like I'm going to talk about protecting native AWS resources. That suddenly just pops up in your user interface. You've got this new feature. So all taken care of for you, no worry about versioning, things like that. So the product itself launched a little over a year ago, and this, what you're looking at here, the slide is going to build out, and this is kind of the evolution of the backup and recovery service. And I do this because you'll see where it started, where it's gone, and where it's going to go. So initially, when we first launched, underneath the VMware logo here, you see DSCC managed storage. So DSCC again is that Data Services Cloud Console, that what I just showed you. And we have storage products that are DSCC managed, like Primera, Nimble, Alletra. So we could only do snapshots to DSCC managed storage. Then we could only do backups to that DSCC managed storage. And then you could push the backups off to the cloud. That was the initial launch. Then we brought in any storage. So we use change block tracking from VMware. And now you can back up and do local snapshots to pretty much any block device. So that's the rest of our storage portfolio, like the MSA and XP arrays, if you happen to know our stuff, but as well as competitive gear, like Pure, NetApp, EMC, things like that. So you can now back up to that and push those off to the cloud. And I say push to the cloud very specifically, so keep that in mind. Because the next thing we announced, and this was late last year, was protection of those native AWS resources. So we can now protect EC2 compute and EBS volumes out in your AWS infrastructure with our backup and recovery service. And I've got a slide here coming up shortly that explains why you might want to do that. It's about storage efficiency. Built into the service, we've got the egress fees built into that, so there's no surprises if you have like a massive failure when you need to do a full restore. You're not going to have this huge egress cost that comes as a surprise. Then importantly, that little arrow came up. You can now back up direct to the cloud. It used to be that you had to push backups off, that were done locally off to the cloud. Now we can back up direct to the cloud. So that's the evolution of the service in the past year. We've got more coming. We'll have SQL integration and a few other things. So it's going to continuously evolve over time. Here's that slide. So this is a slide about what we call the Catalyst protocol. That is part of the technology that backup and recovery is built on, and it's a HPE unique and developed protocol. So it's really secure. Number one, it's not like NFS or SMB, which are very prevalent and people are continuously trying to hack. So Catalyst is a very unique protocol to HPE, and it offers up to 8x capacity efficiencies over things like AWS snapshotting out in the cloud. So that's part of the technology of the product. Importantly, we have a free trial. You can see there's a link up here. If you go to hpe.com, you can search backup and recovery. This is kind of the main page you'll come to with a link to the free trial. You can protect unlimited number of VMs and up to 5 terabytes in the cloud during your free trial. And it lets you kind of just get that test drive in to see if it's going to be a good fit for you. And then you can turn that trial into a service that you consume. I showed you the interface and how slick it is. This is a screenshot of the HCI management interface. So Hyperconverged is a product that we've got, and that is available on the Data Services Cloud Console as a tile. So this is that dashboard view of the HCI manager interface, and same look and feel that we talked about before. The important thing is that red box that I've put on the screen. That red box shows some of the integration that we have. So backup and recovery, again, global protection policies. So with HCI Manager, you create workloads, you build VMs and workloads out, and the last step of that wizard for HCI Manager says, okay, how do you want to protect this? And so you select one of your protection policies, click it, you're done. So integration among the services is really important, very cool, and the platform is going to have a lot of this going forward. Last page I have for you is a whole bunch of resources that we have. There are YouTube demos out on YouTube, of course. There's a whole bunch of resource on hpe.com. Again, search backup and recovery. It'll take you there. You can take a look at all kinds of the technical documents, white papers, things like that. So that is a wrap. So I think, Keith, oh wait, it looks like we might have some questions. Before I turn it over to Tyler and Phil, why don't we maybe check those questions out?
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. Thanks for that presentation. Great stuff. I love in-depth demos showing how the product really works, and love what HPE, is doing in this space. Some really innovative stuff. So let's get to a couple of those questions. First one that we've got here: does your backup and recovery solution protect bare metal workloads? That's going to be a question a lot of folks have, I think.
Yeah, it is, and the answer is no. And so it's a great question to ask. It is focused only on VMware at the moment. Backup and recovery isn't on the roadmap. I can't say we'll never do it, but most workloads are going away from bare metal and going to virtualized and now importantly containerized environments. So I think that's where we might go with it. Is containerized would be the next step. But yeah, the answer is no to the bare metal.
Okay, great. So next up, what kind of commitment is required from a customer when it comes to getting the HPE backup and recovery solution?
Great question. And so backup and recovery is unique in the services that we offer to date. And importantly, it's software as a service, right? There's no hardware that comes with backup and recovery. You're just deploying those VMs in your VMware environment. So being software, we have two billing options. There is fixed commitment, and that is, hey, I want to protect, X number of VMs, and I want to use, X number of terabytes in the cloud, and I want to use this for a year, 2 years, up to 5 years is what backup and recovery offers. But we also have a no commitment or pay as you go option because it's just software, right? So if you don't know what you might want to consume or how long you might want to consume it, you can do the no commitment and you basically get a license key to enable the product, and then you're billed in arrears. So there's no commitment there.
Gotcha.
And let me add, so Tyler's going to talk about GreenLake for block and Phil's going to talk GreenLake for file. Those are what we call infrastructure as a service, or it's hardware under the covers. Those will probably only have commitment options, no commit, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we have time for one more question today, Ken, before we move on. Is this new technology from HPE?
Another great question. It is and it isn't. So it's new as a service, but really under the covers, the technology that makes up backup and recovery service is tried and true technology that we've developed and had for literally years, probably almost a decade now, some of it. So if you know our product, Store Once is a backup appliance, so it is hardware, but the Store Once technology is a lot of what's the DNA that makes up backup and recovery. So that Catalyst protocol that came from Store Once, and it's in our backup and recovery service. So yeah, it's a new service, but the technology underlying is very tried and true.
That's good to hear. A little peace of mind there. Okay, we have a lot more questions. Would love to take some more, but I know we want to get to Tyler, so I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. But thanks so much for your time, Ken. I've really enjoyed having you on today.
Yes, Keith, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Keith. So my name's Tyler Clark. I want to go through the newest offering on the HPE storage portfolio, HPE GreenLake for block. We'll also cover the HPE GreenLake for file. They're built on a common platform called the HPE Alletra Storage NP. NP stands for multi-protocol. So I want to start off by saying one of the things I want the audience to take from this presentation is what GreenLake, what is GreenLake, and what does it mean to you? So traditionally, over the past 5-ish years, GreenLake has meant a financial consumption model that we have been selling, through HPE. Just understand that we are rebranding ourselves around GreenLake. So everything moving forward, you will see not only the block and file offerings, also a future object offering will be called HPE GreenLake. You understand you still will be able to consume the platform in OpEx, but you'll also be able to consume it as CapEx and as subscription, and I'll talk about that towards the end of the presentation. But to drive that home, understand that HPE GreenLake is very similar to like Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure. It is our brand. We are striving to be the on-premises hyperscaler. So we're going to talk a little bit about the the MP product, as well as the GreenLake for block offering on top of it. So our agenda, we do understand that you folks are going through a digital transformation. It is an imperative. We also want to offer mission critical storage level product now at mid-range economics so that you can have all the performance that you need of our traditionally higher end platforms in a mid-range economic model. And then the benefits of stepping into the new platform and next steps. Okay, so what's holding you back for digital transformation? We understand things. Complex management of your data center, infrastructure silos, inefficient scaling when it comes to the platforms that you're currently using. I'm assuming that most of you that are out in the audience are using discrete storage appliances. That's something that we're going to get away from moving forward as HPE and simplify our portfolio down. And then we also understand that you're used to having price for performance trade-offs depending on what you can spend and what you're going to try to run on it. So we know at HPE it's time for a different approach to mission critical storage. So what we've done in our newest platforms is we've basically given you the ability to manage all of your storage through a cloud interface, which I'll talk about, that can access called the Data Services Cloud Console. We also are going to allow you to run all of your workloads on one common platform. We're going to maximize your infrastructure efficiency at scale with the ability to scale, compute, and storage independently in the new platform. And then, as I mentioned on our last slide, it's going to eliminate that price performance compromise that you've had to do in the past, depending on what you had to spend and what you wanted to run on it. So let's talk a little bit about the portfolio. So moving forward, our block offering is called HPE GreenLake for block storage built on Alletra MP. To reiterate, the MP stands for multi-protocol. At launch, we have a block and a file offering. I'm going to speak specifically a little bit about the block here, and then we have Phil to speak about the file piece of it afterwards. So as I mentioned before, we want to simplify management on this platform with the Data Services Cloud Console. We want to allow you to scale the platform how you like. So it's disaggregated, very, very similar to our DHCI offering, which allows you to if you need more compute, you can scale compute. If you need more storage nodes, you can scale storage. And because it is built on the DNA of our 3PAR Primera and Alletra 9K code, it is 100% uptime availability guaranteed platform. Let's talk a little bit about that. So we are so confident that this platform will not go down. We will put it in writing. So you will have the 100% in writing data availability guarantee for all of your workloads. Where does this platform reside in our current portfolio? If you have been working with HPE over the past few years, you know we have moved away from speeds and feeds and really want to look at the type of workload that you want to run. And that's the platform you need to run it on. So from the beginning entry level and robo offering of our MSA, all the way up to the XP, if you need mainframe connectivity, we have a product for you. Where this product is going to reside, HPE GreenLake for block storage at launch, is in between the Alletra 6000, which is our business critical NVMe, all NVMe array, and our Alletra 9000, which is our mission critical 100% uptime availability guaranteed array. The platform itself will not scale at launch, but we will get to a point where you will be able to scale this thing any direction that you want to in the future. But right now, the platform is targeted primarily for folks that have our existing 3PAR 7 and 8000 because of the lack of scalability at launch. But this is where it resides now. So as I mentioned before, this particular common platform, the Alletra, HPE Alletra MP, will allow you to run any type of operating system that you want on it. It is software defined. It is, you could run a block offering. As I mentioned, Phil's going to talk about the file after this, but and you'll be able to scale this thing, compute, and storage nodes independently. In a nutshell, this is pretty much how we would define the next generation block storage from HPE. As I mentioned, it is built on the DNA of 3PAR. One of the things that made 3PAR unique in the industry is that it had dedicated data ASICs that did some, certain things that allowed it to be one of the most highly performing arrays on the market at the time. We understand that hardware has got much more faster in the past few years, and we're able to software define that. We're able to pull those ASICs out of the actual platform and use current CPU technology to emulate those functions. What that does for us is it allows us to simplify our supply chain and allow us to ship this stuff very quickly. As I mentioned a couple slides back, it is a disaggregated multidimensional scaling platform that allows you to scale compute or storage nodes however you want to. Built on a common hardware block, it is a mission critical 100% uptime availability. It is also an NVMe array, so it's ultra performance for your applications that need that. And then finally, we took some things that we learned with the purchase of Nimble and the products that we had thereafter for support with InfoSight. So InfoSight is an integral part of this platform, just like any of our storage platforms moving forward. That is designed specifically to improve the support experience. So understand we do have that there, and I'll talk about that in a subsequent slide. Okay, this is a graphical representation that Ken referenced for the Data Services Cloud Console, which is one of the tiles that is in the GreenLake Cloud platform. So we have 4 pillars that we designed the DSCC around. So simplified deployment is pillar 1. So you can purchase devices, they will automatically be discovered and onboarded, simplifying your traditional deployment of storage devices. Invisible upgrades. What that means is because this is a cloud-based platform and nothing resides on your location, when we roll out new features in the platform itself, when you log in, there'll be invisible upgrades. You'll see new tiles such as the backup stuff that Kim was talking about earlier. AI self-service provisioning. One of the things that this platform does great, utilizes a few things along with InfoSight. And when you go to provision an application, it will go out and look at your global install of all of your storage that has been integrated into the DSCC, and it will decide where that particular application is supposed to reside for you. And then finally, unified storage management. You'll be able to see your entire storage environment in your enterprise via one pane of glass. So the Data Services Cloud Console is one of the most important pieces and what makes it unique. It allows you to do your traditional functions of storage management that you could not do in the past without utilizing tons of resources. You no longer need a dedicated specialist to do storage administration. You can use a generalist. It's going to save you lots of money and time. Some numbers, as I mentioned before, this is 100% uptime in writing data availability platform. Because of the DSCC and InfoSight, operational time will be cut for your IT department, 98%, saving you lots of money. This platform at launch will perform 66% better than your existing 3PARs that you have out there, and also 2x the performance of our primaries for those that are running those. I mentioned InfoSight and why it's important. InfoSight is AI-driven for autonomous self-driving data infrastructure. So there are a few things that we need to talk about there and what InfoSight has done in the past. Up to this date, there's been over 1.5 million hours saved by problems that were predicted and prevented by InfoSight. As I mentioned earlier on, InfoSight is designed to do one thing specifically, and that is to improve the customer support experience. Because of the level of telemetric data that we have across the stack from storage to VM, we're able to pinpoint issues very quickly and make recommendations. And because it is AI driven, it eliminates the guesswork. So InfoSight is one of those things that is a unique differentiator in the market for us. So some more numbers. As I mentioned before, for InfoSight, predictive analytics. Because of InfoSight and the way that it does what it does, it's going to automate about 80% of the issues that you would normally have to have a person take care of, which is your level 1 and level 2 things, such as hard drives dying and little support cases that can actually cost your people a lot of time. Rapid root cause, because you're dealing with a level 3 engineer, a Nimble-based engineer in the U.S. here that knows the entire stack. And then finally, we will call you generally if we find a problem. Some other numbers to look at, our Net Promoter Score is 4.91 out of 5, which is extremely high. People love the support experience that we deliver on our platforms. Your average hold time from a call in is only 1 minute, and that's unheard of. So let's talk a little bit about our competition before we finish up here. Some of the things that we offer. Mission critical at mid-range economics, that's not something that our main competition, Pure and Dell, offer. We do that an affordable 2-node entry array, simplified management, DSCC, as I mentioned before, better economics through disaggregated scaling, and then you can run any application without compromise on the infrastructure that's 100% uptime availability. So transform ownership. So for you as an end user, we do offer a few ways to get involved with this platform early on. We do have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. Try the platform for 30 days with no risk. We also offer the store more guarantee and 100% availability guarantee. So we are seeing between 3 to 1 and 4 to 1 data reduction. Consume it the way that you want to consume it. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this, GreenLake is still, it is our brand, but you still can consume via that OpEx offering, but you can pay up front in a CapEx, and then there is our as-a-service subscriptions as well. So you're able to consume this platform in any way that you want to. Some dates, we brought the platform went live on March 6th, so orders could be placed. Your partners could actually on April 3rd process quotes through distribution for you. We're going to start shipping this platform at the end of this month and mostly through May. So if you want to go ahead and get involved with it, it will be available. And then some of the next steps for you, see a demo of GreenLake, HPE GreenLake for block storage with your partners. They have the ability to go to our demo portal and show it off to you. As I mentioned before, the try and buy, you are not obligated. You can bring this platform in, test it, see what you think about it. And if you want to purchase it, you can. If you're not on the hook, you can return it. So we make it very easy to do business with us. And then finally, if you want more information, visit hpe.com/storage/block storage as block storage service for more information. I appreciate you folks letting me get in front of you today to talk about the new GreenLake for block storage built on Alletra MP. Let me turn it over to Phil Manez. He's going to cover the file offering as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Yes, I will cover GreenLake for file storage and take us home for the presentations, and then we'll wrap with a little Q&A. I'll be talking about HPE GreenLake for file storage, and I think a point that I don't think can be hammered home enough is the difference in experience that customers get with GreenLake now. I thought Tyler did a great job of explaining kind of the shift in brand that we are seeing with GreenLake, moving away, decoupling just from that cloud consumption model to much more of that cloud operating experience. So when you're looking at HPE GreenLake for file storage, you're not just buying a storage project, you're really getting an on-prem data cloud. And I think there's some things that you need to have in order to make a statement like that. So thing one is definitely that cloud experience, that public cloud experience on-prem that you can deliver anywhere. I think the cloud consumption model, and especially with storage, flexibility is really key to our customers. With things like compute, you can spin up and spin down very easily, but storage is something that kind of continues just to go up and up and up. And there's a lot of times where customers are going to want to consume that more of a CapEx fashion, but there's also going to be times where you're not so certain and you want that OpEx flexibility. So those are both very important. And the final thing is really that modern infrastructure layer, because if you plug legacy architectures into advanced automation and consumption models, you still end up fighting the same fires every day that you're fighting with legacy technologies. You're working on, balancing hotspots, balancing price and performance, balancing all these different tiering policies and things like that. You're trying to figure out, fault domains and scale limitations. And when you're thinking about a cloud experience, you just want it to work. And HPE GreenLake for file storage is going to bring all of those things into bear. And that's what we're going to hit on in the next few minutes through this presentation. So kind of going back a step and looking at the high level approach and the challenges that our customers are facing, the data centers that we've all built together for the last 20 years have been specifically designed to deliver performance to a really small subset of our customers' data, right? We've had the conversation, we should use things like tiering because you're only using 10 or 15% of your data at any given time. So let's take the rest of it and park it on as cheap of a storage tier as we can. But what we found very recently is that customers are now really looking to unlock the value of their data, and they're understanding that it's the aggregate value of the data that is most powerful. But I can't live in a world where all of my data is parked on something that's basically so slow that it's inaccessible. But at the same time, I can't just explode my budget and invest in really expensive resources everywhere. So we really need a new approach to give customers fast access to all of their data in a way that doesn't sacrifice in terms of budget, resiliency, or any of the other things that are incredibly important in terms of designing a new data center for the modern world. And we're also seeing customers kind of stuck between some difficult choices as they start to figure out, where do I go in terms of step one? How do I build the foundation for AI? And we know things like GPUs and all the algorithms are really important. But if you don't have the data layer to provide access for those algorithms to all your data, then that becomes the bottleneck, and those AI deployments don't get off the ground. We see plenty of customers buying a ton of GPUs and they end up sleeping because to them, the GPU is the first step to AI, but they didn't put all the other infrastructure pieces in place that are going to support those types of initiatives at scale. So when customers look to the choices they have for AI deployments, on one hand, you kind of have these legacy players that have been sticking things like Flash into the same architectures and then calling them AI platforms. But ultimately, you can't just bury the legacy limitations and the limitations of those architectures with Flash, right? It gets you to a degree, but it doesn't take you all the way. So on the other side of the spectrum, they're looking to solutions that have done well over time in HPC workloads, right? And HPC has kind of historically lived in different corners of specific industries. We see it in oil and gas. We see it in research. We see it in federal research type environments, some specific enterprises, but ultimately there's not a ton of HPC storage out there. And the reason for that is you get typically pretty good speed and scale, but you struggle with the management side, right? Dealing with things like client-side drivers and upgrades and resilience becomes challenging. And there's just not enough people that know how to manage those deployments. And if I'm an enterprise type customer looking to deploy AI, it's probably not something I want to introduce into my environment for the first time in 2023 and beyond. So GreenLake for file storage really cuts through both of those and gives customers the best of both worlds, that combination of, I think, a significantly easier management experience than some of these traditional players, but the speed and scale that you'd expect from an HPC storage solution, obviously also from HPE. And I think what's really critical about this whole point is that we don't believe that the future data centers of tomorrow are going to have these two separate infrastructures, one for running traditional apps and one for running AI. We believe in a world where customers are going to be able to do AI right in place where their data lives without needing to move it to some other corner of the data center where AI is going to happen. And that is specifically what HPE GreenLake for file storage is designed to do. So at a high level, the solution is the Alletra MP storage platform that Tyler was talking about. It is actually the VAST Data file system, so partnership between VAST Data and HP to bring GreenLake for file storage to life, and all wrapped in the self-service delivery, the support, and all that functionality that GreenLake brings to our customers, which to me has been one of the most exciting aspects of seeing private and hybrid cloud solutions truly come to life and be able to rival the experience that customers have been getting in the public cloud. And ultimately, this solution is designed for customers that are looking to get value out of their data, supporting many different types of applications, from more traditional file workloads to big data workloads to next generation AI workloads, even workloads built on containers. And what it does is, by giving you a giant pool of NVMe storage, you get the power of your data at scale. When you tier your data and just have a little bit of performance across your capacity, all of the performance of all your workloads comes out of that tiny amount of capacity. But if there's a way to make Flash affordable at scale, then you're kind of pooling all your resources. You might not need it for every application, but the applications that aren't using performance at that time can lend their power to the applications that do. And then on top of it, you get that incredibly simple common management experience across all the GreenLake platforms. Not a lot of tinkering ever needs to be done at the storage layer, really just peeling off shares from a big common pool of flash. And again, giving you that ability to unlock value in your data directly in place very quickly without needing to worry about, do I have the right data in my dedicated AI or analytics environment that is somewhere else in a different corner of the data center. And a lot of what we can bring comes from a fundamental change in architecture. And it comes from a perfect complement of the file system with disaggregated shared everything architecture on top of those very modern building blocks in the Alletra MP platform. So ultimately, we will look at the unstructured data market. Pretty much every storage system that's fairly modern is using a very similar architecture that we call shared nothing, right? Where I have a node and that is how I scale the system. I've got a node, it's got a controller, some memory, and a set of drives. The only way to get access to those drives is through that controller. And when we used to have small drives and slow networks, that was okay. But now we're starting to see challenges in terms of supporting larger scale, supporting more interesting use cases for data, and supporting things like larger flash drives. So with the introduction of some new technologies in recent history, we were able to design a new architecture where we have a disaggregated approach, an independent scaling compute layer and capacity layer of the storage architecture tied together with an NVMe fabric. And ultimately, that gives us some huge advantages, and it doesn't just come from feature functionality. These are fundamental advantages from an architectural perspective, where this architecture designed to scale at exabyte scale, right? Today, you're going to see some initial qualification limitations. We're starting with around five petabyte clusters, but that will grow very quickly. And from a fundamental perspective, an architecture that's designed to scale forever. And because we don't have this node-based scaling where every time I add a node, I actually add a ton of different network overhead, we get perfect linear performance scaling, which gives our customers the ability to get predictable latency no matter how big or how small the cluster is. You get to deliver the right mix of compute and capacity for your requirements at the time. So I can just add more performance at the compute layer, I can add more capacity, and I can grow, scale up and out for the right mix at the right time. This type of architecture gives the opportunity to do a lot more in terms of the data services that we can provide. You also get incredible resiliency, because when I lose one of those compute nodes, I don't lose access to any drive. So the ability to handle better resiliency, I can also deliver a lot more interesting ways to carve up the cluster. So fundamental challenges that we see with these legacy scale-out architectures have been addressed, enabling our customers to use their data in much more interesting ways going forward. And at a high level, we're going to just talk quickly about some of the efficiency features, because I've talked a lot about flash. And ultimately, the first impression is, hey, how do I afford all flash per file? It was easier for block. Those solutions historically had been a little bit more expensive, but file, I'm trying to compete at a little bit lower gig. How do I get to the point where I can use flash for all of my data? And what we've done is focused on driving maximum efficiency out of that flash. So first, delivering a way to get a longer lifespan out of lower endurance flash is step one, right? How do I continue to ride the advancement of flash and growing drives, and as those drives grow, typically lower endurance over time? So something called data foresight allows us to manage the way that we use those drives and maximize their lifespan. Then we looked at opportunities in the data protection space, delivering the world's most efficient erasure coding scheme under 3% data protection overhead with over 60 million years mean time between failures. So no sacrifice in availability or rebuild times, but the best data efficiency erasure coding on the market. And finally, some totally differentiated data reduction schemes specifically designed to get efficiencies out of file. Typically, you'll see on flash systems maybe compression only or a combination of compression and dedupe. But in the unstructured world, what happens with dedupe is you get a lot of blocks of data that are close to each other, but not exactly the same. And in the dedupe world, that's a total dedupe miss. So with similarity-based data reduction, if there are two chunks of data that are similar but not exactly the same, we'll actually compress those together, track the changes, so you ultimately get an approximation of the result of being able to zip up petabytes or even exabytes of data in a common compression scheme. So drives out tremendous efficiency. And this 3-step process really helps lower that cost of flash, so I can use it for much more aggressive workloads. And finally, the thing that I'll wrap this with, I think we'll, talk about use cases. This is really about the customers that are on that journey to unleashing the power of their data. If you're looking for answers in your data, if you're looking to leverage your data for a competitive advantage, if you're looking to improve your security by looking at what's happening in your data, then this is a great solution for really the AI era, right? And I think anything you're buying today should be considered a solution for the AI era. And that is what this product does. It is your first step towards enabling digital transformation across your whole environment. We truly believe that it's going to start with the data and that storage layer. So I think that's all we got in terms of presentations. I think we're going to bring Keith back in here to do a little bit of Q&A for me and Tyler, and then we'll wrap up and set you guys on your way. So Keith, I'll hand it back to you.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Phil. Great presentations. Really informative. Nice to see what HPE is doing and how it's innovating, as I mentioned before. So we do want to get to some of those questions. We had some great ones coming in while Tyler was talking. So Tyler, we're going to bring you back in at this point, and let's start with some questions for you. Are you ready?
I am, Keith.
All right. Excellent. So first, is there an easy way to migrate from a 3-PAR environment to GreenLake for Block?
That's a great question. It goes back to one of the slides that I mentioned of where this product is targeted at launch, really on our existing install base for those customers out there that have 3-PAR in place. Pure motion is something you're going to be familiar with. It's a non-disruptive way to move the data over from this platform to the new GreenLake for Block platform, as it is built on the legacy of 3-PAR, Primera, and Alletra 9K. So great question.
Okay. So next up, can the platform be managed on premises, or is it only through the DSCC or the Data Service Cloud Console only?
That's another great question. I assume that's somebody that is familiar with our Alletra 5, 6, and 9000. We originally brought those platforms to market saying you could only manage them via the cloud, the Data Services Cloud Console. But we did have an air gap process that was in place. For the new platform, it's the same air gap process in place, but there is an onboard GUI as well as CLI for management on premises as well. So you can manage it either through the DSCC or on premises.
No, good to know. Good to know. And last question for you right now, Tyler. When will the switched scalable version of the platform be available for GreenLake for Block?
It is slated to be ready by the end of this year. So look for it sometime in the late fall, early winter.
All right. Definitely looking forward to that. Thanks so much, Tyler. All right, Phil, you are on deck now. We're going to get some of the top questions that came in for you. Let's start with this one. What products do you see this product replacing?
Yeah, so we see a pretty wide spectrum. I hit on it a little bit in the presentation, but definitely I would say I think a lot of customers that have used historically Dell Isilon, now PowerScale, have been looking for more innovation in that product. And we think this architecturally, all the features that it brings, clear step forward there. And we've had a lot of interest from customers in that space, customers with larger NetApp deployments, pure FlashBlade, and then even some parallel file system users as well. And I think the other area where we're actually seeing a lot of adoption is repatriation from the public cloud, right? Where you have some of these modern applications that were built in the public cloud, costs in the public cloud growing, and they're trying to figure out, how do I provide those modern data services on-prem? And this product does really well there. And we're also seeing a decent amount of greenfield. So pretty wide array of use cases and competitors, but typically, again, forward thinking around how we can unlock value out of that data.
For sure, for sure. Okay, another great question for you, Phil. What capacity is the starting point for all of this? What would you say?
Yeah, so we're really focused on deployments with 250 terabytes or more of NAS. That is where we consider the sweet spot up and beyond. Typically, that's where we're starting to see customers starting to struggle with some of the limitations that we see in those architectures. They're struggling with balancing price, performance, complexity, resiliency. So really that focus is in that few hundred terabytes and more of capacity.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, finally, we've got a real practical question for you, Phil. What are some of the specific applications that you see this product supporting?
Yeah, so great question. We see it definitely. We'd started, especially in really data intensive verticals, so life sciences, things like pharma, biotech, even in the higher ed on the research side is a great spot. We've seen it in financial services. We've seen a lot of adoption on the federal side as well, and also workloads like media and entertainment. It's an area where we see a lot of unstructured data struggling to figure out how to support more demanding workloads going forward. For more horizontal applications, anywhere in the analytics space, and that's like spread from things like Splunk and Elastic to big data modernization to AI workloads. So again, across the board, where you see a decent amount of data, lots of data, customers looking to analyze that data, looking for answers in it, from a horizontal and vertical perspective is always where we're going to be pretty focused.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's all we've got time for, but I do have one final question for Tyler. The presentations have shown just a lot of stuff, a lot of great products, a lot of innovation. It can feel a little overwhelming, but if someone's looking to get started with HPE GreenLake, where would you recommend they start? What is the next thing they should do, do you think?
Great question, Keith. Definitely want to start with your local HPE partners that are in your geographical area. These partners are great resources. They have engineers that have been trained on each one of the platforms that we covered today. We do have our demonstration portal that they can go out and show you these platforms in action. So that's where you really want to start. And then we've obviously got some programs like the Try and Buy that'll allow you to bring a unit on site. But yeah, your first point of entry is to go talk with your local partner that you work with for HPE.
Great, great. Well, thanks, Tyler. And it looks like we're out of time for today, so we're going to have to leave it there. But I want to thank everyone for all the great questions today. And I want to thank Tyler, Phil, and Ken for these insights into some of the great stuff that HPE is doing. It's been really illuminating, and I think we have a much better idea of what is out now and what's coming in the future. So it's some exciting times for HPE. And with that, we're going to wrap it there. Thanks, everyone. Okay. There we go. A lot of great information. Much knowledge was imparted, I think. That can be shown by the amount of questions we had. Really got to a lot of them. I was very happy about that. So we've thrown up a poll for you. If this discussion that Ken, Tyler, Phil, and I have had has piqued your interest in GreenLake, let us know. The poll is your chance to tell HPE what you'd like to learn more about. So get your votes in now. Remember also to download those HPE resources from the handouts section. While I leave the poll up, I need to take care of one final piece of business today, and that is the $250 Amazon gift card prize drawing. Remember that you do have to have been present for the entire event to be eligible for this prize. And the winner of the Amazon gift card today is Ted Haying from Iowa. All right, congratulations, Ted. We'll be in touch soon to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the entire Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank HPE for making this event possible. And thanks as always to you for attending and for your insightful questions. And that concludes today's event. Have a great rest of your day.